You're listening to our social newscast with me, Sam Marshall. We continue our conversation. Every day we unpack the world of giving. Individuals, leaders, companies, organizations were all doing their bit during this COVID-19 pandemic lockdown period. And today's no different. We speak to Lindiwe Temba, who's the executive head of Nedbank Group CSI. Lindiwe, thank you very much for giving us your time and willing to chat to us.
Thanks for having me.
And there was a big announcement made by Nedbank, I think a couple of days ago, if not about a week ago, 12 million rand towards creating a program to not only help volunteers, but to really help those individuals who are at the coalface of dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic. Just talk to me a little bit about how that decision was made and the allocation of that 12 million rand.
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously, as a bank, we try our best to do our part in terms of trying to support our communities. So it was a natural thing to say, look, this is a crisis the country is faced with, crisis that none of us have ever seen globally. And the question was, where can we assist and how can we support our communities? So it was a discussion that happened, across the group. And we said, at this point in time, this is what we can put forward as immediate, given the urgency. And we obviously started talking to some of potential NGOs that we've dealt with in the past that are on the ground and obviously have the experience to guide us. And yeah, that's how it came about, to try and raise money internally to say, let's put this forward and then let's see who we can partner with, obviously in the priority areas. And that's what we did. One of the organizations being the South African Red Cross, we have put forward as a priority is things like the protective gear for healthcare workers. And as more and more healthcare workers are beginning to test positive for COVID-19, it's quite urgent that our healthcare workers that are on the front line are well protected. So that's one of the priority areas that we said that money can go towards. And as well as our vulnerable members of our community, because without going to work, we know that the whole thing around shortage of food and hunger is there. So we've also made that a priority in our discussions with them. We were also supporting Doctors Without Borders and as well as World Vision. So these are all organizations that we are confident they have the experience on the ground in dealing with crises of this nature, and they can guide us accordingly.
The other thing that also stood out for me about the donation was the fact that you also looked at volunteers. Now, I'm not saying that none of the other funds, I mean, we know from CAFSA, they've created a fund with the Oppenheimers that look at NPOs and PBOs. But that really struck a chord with me because there are just so many, unfortunately, different cogs in this wheel at the moment, as you've quite eloquently described, from the doctors to the medical professionals to the individuals. But you also looked at volunteers as well, and I thought that really struck with me. That was very important for me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, the whole thing around volunteerism. I mean, even with our staff, we've got a huge volunteerism program within the bank. And we were getting calls. Everyone is working from home. But obviously, we need to be cautious to say, look, these are the organizations we're partnering with. You can get in touch with them, but, obviously take the safety precautions to make sure that you are protected. And the whole thing around mobilizing volunteers and, it's the capacity. There's only so much capacity. And if there are people out there that are willing to get in touch with some of these organizations, like the Red Cross, because they are the ones that are actually mobilizing, training and equipping and deploying these trained volunteers across communities. Obviously, a volunteer, you're at the risk of being affected, but hopefully with all the protective gear that is being sourced by the Red Cross, they can be protected. So I think, that's another aspect of it.
we're having this conversation, you at home, we in our studio, and we talked a little bit earlier about just the kind of toll that it's taking on individuals. Just talk to me. I mean, we know that the banks, in an unprecedented way, have come together to really look at how they can help ordinary South Africans. And we know that organizations like Reimagine South Africa just put out an article on how we collectively can work together. But as the head of
Mm.
CSI, are you amazed at how people have pulled together, how they've been willing to share resources, willing to share thoughts, ideas, processes?
No, it's been absolutely amazing, and I mean we know that as a country, when we're hit with things like that, we definitely come together. I mean, the number of calls that I've been on with other banks, obviously coordinated by Banking Association of South Africa, in terms of how can we best leverage all the money that is being put forward to make sure that there is no duplication, to make sure that these funds reach, the most vulnerable and rural communities. So by so doing, it's been awesome to say that we're all thinking on the same lines to say, if we're putting so much, let's understand who's doing what, and that's what we're trying to do. We're putting that together. Who's looking at the food parcels, etc. Who's dealing with protective gear, and then we've all sort of transparently said, these are the organizations that we are supporting, and that's all in the objective is to try and make sure that the money that is being put forward, is really well spent and goes directly and quite urgently to the priority areas, obviously being guided by the organizations that are on the ground.
Now, 12 million. Look, I mean, everybody's doing their bit, everybody's trying to help. How will you manage that 12 million? How does that disbursement work over the next couple of weeks? And maybe before you answer that question, I know the money was allocated before the president announced the extension of the lockdown. Does that have any bearing on how that money is now dispersed?
No, not necessarily. What we've done with the various organizations, the three main ones that we're really supporting. And by the way, we've also put money into the Solidarity Fund. But what we've done is that they've given us an implementation plan, because they're also working with the Department of Health to ensure that those areas or the provinces or where they are picking up the most infection rates, and they've given them priority. So they've given us an implementation plan. So we understand these are the areas they're going to touch. We monitor that, and obviously we get feedback on a regular basis in terms of what has happened maybe in the past couple of weeks, etc., etc. So that's how that money will be dispersed. There's a plan. It's not just given. They have said, for example, Khayelitsha, we know is a hotspot. There's a huge population there with TB, HIV, and those are very vulnerable. And Doctors with Borders is trying to focus on that. So that's how we're managing, the disbursement and the implementation, because we need to be updated constantly as to, how is it going, what impact are we having.
And then just a final question from us. I mean, I'm sure that yourself, your team, you are also, like all South Africans, waiting for further pronouncements from the president, and that you are also, like all of us, on tenterhooks in terms of how this new normal will work. What is just some of the advice that you would give, especially around, and I love what Nedbank has done. You've gone to players in the industry, you've gone to reputable players within the industry. What is some of the advice that you would give for any other CSI manager, any other corporate, before they allocate resources and funds towards a gap, or they think there's a gap in this space?
Look, I think my advice or my take would be, at this point in time, we need to have a united front. There's nothing. It's all about collaboration, and as I mentioned earlier, amongst the banks or the financial institutions, that's the reason why we're having those discussions to say collectively, let's understand who's doing what, so that we can better leverage off the funding, because there's a huge requirement out there, and it's all urgent. So collectively, collaboration is the only way that we can make sure that we get this right. So that come, 12 months down the line, it's not like, but so much was dispersed, but et cetera, et cetera. So my advice is really, let's collaborate and let's try and have a united front in terms of trying to tackle the virus.
Nondiwe Themba, thank you very much for your time. I know it's very stressful for everybody, but for you just to take the time and explain to us how this fund will roll out and
Yes,
who you're working with, we really do
yes,
appreciate that. Thank you very
yes.
much.
Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thanks.
For more stories like these, go to www.social-tv.co.za, subscribe to us on YouTube and follow us on our social mediums.